As you know, last week our nation struck a thunderous blow for justice when we found and killed Osama bin Laden. Of course, we know that the war on terror is not over, although killing him was a major turning point. And not only bin Laden, but documents showed that the terrorists are focusing on a new area, rail. The latest intelligence should come as a wake-up call. We need to get serious about protecting our trains from future attacks now, before it's too late. And as we have done in the past, this nation has shown agility to adjust to the war on terror. Well, there are new adjustments called for because of what we've learned. Mainly that they intended to focus on rail here in America as they have in Europe previously. So today I'm here to announce a major push for increased rail security that would help protect us from those who would seek to target our rail infrastructure and cause massive loss of life. Specifically, we need to provide greater resources to local law enforcement to help them monitor and enhance track safety for rail infrastructure and local train stations. And at the same time, we need to enhance our screening process for those boarding Amtrak trains. So let me explain in some detail. Through an examination of documents and computer files in bin Laden's Pakistani compound, American intelligence analysts have concluded Al-Qaeda had been considering attacking American railroads by sabotaging rail tracks to cause trains to derail over bridges, valleys, and mountains. They planned to launch an attack on some of our busiest travel holidays, Christmas, New Year's. They even were considering the 10th anniversary of 9/11. As soon as they learned of the new intelligence, FBI and Homeland Security sounded the alarm, and they directed local authorities to be on the lookout for missing railroad spikes or packages left near or on train tracks. Why did Al-Qaeda consider attacking our trains? While we don't know for certain, it's clear that the sheer number of people who use trains presents a very tempting target for them, and our security apparatus for protecting track infrastructure and monitoring who's trying to ride our trains is not as sophisticated or advanced as our air security is. So we need to do two things. First, we need to increase rail security funding in light of this new intelligence to protect our commuter, passenger, and freight rail across the country. While the current climate in Washington has been to cut back as much as possible to reduce our deficit, and that's a goal I share, we have to reduce the deficit. New circumstances demand we make appropriate adjustments to bolster Homeland Security. As part of the budget compromise last month, $50 million was cut from the Transit Security Grant Program. And that program is vital to help our local transit systems find any terrorist activity. It helps local law enforcement patrol the trains, and it helps the transit authorities patrol the tracks and look for those who would try to hurt us. The original program was $300 million. It's now $250 million. At the very minimum, we should restore that $50 million, and at the same time see if the number should go higher, given the fact that Al-Qaeda is focusing on rail. The TSGP program provides funds for risk-based efforts to protect critical infrastructure. It funds security plans, vulnerability assessments, security training for rail employees and infrastructure upgrades, and the Buffer Zone Protection Program provides support to fund perimeter protection plans like better security systems and personnel to monitor critical infrastructure sites like bridges, tunnels, and the tracks that go through them. This is funding that under these new circumstances our agencies desperately. It doesn't make sense in light of the new information to stick with this cutback. The money ought to be restored and probably increased. Second, we need to put in place screening processes where possible. In this case, we're talking about Amtrak. The Amtrak ticketing system is quite like the airline ticketing system, where you have to buy a ticket in advance and have your name on the manifold of who is taking the train. We should be comparing Amtrak manifolds the same way we compare airline manifolds to the terrorist watch list. and not let anybody who might be near that list buy a ticket. By alerting law enforcement about passengers on the no-fly list, we've been able to catch and deter terrorists from boarding our planes. We can do the same on Amtrak, a rail system that requires tickets to be purchased in the same way. So what we're calling for, very simply, is for Amtrak to put in place a do not ride list, like the airlines have put in place a do not fly list.